First item is approval of the agenda.
So move.
I'd like
Sorry.
to add something to the
Sorry.
agenda.
Yes, Councillor Dept.
9L, I guess decision on the East Pubnico street light. I guess maybe I should know, but I'm not sure, so.
Good
Want to
morning,
add
Danny.
Richard, want to add the grant request too.
Yes, we have a grant request from the Kayaks
Yeah.
Society of Bay of Fundy. Sea Kayak Society, it's a grant. We will discuss it, so that will be known for financial request. We'll put it under 11B.
Yep.
Boy, we got Roman numerals there. Okay, we entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Do we have any conflicts of interest declarations tonight? See none? We'll move on to presentations. I see we have no presentations tonight. Adoptions of the minutes, regular council meeting, August 9th.
Move we approve the minutes, regular council meeting of August 9th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Business arising from the minutes. Ellen, would you like to speak on anything that's on there? Or there's the Nikhil bus, there's highlighted, I see the green carts. And I see later on in the next item is the East Pubnico Playground.
Yes. So the Nikhil bus, we had asked that Nikhil investigate the insurance ramifications of taking on or sharing in the use. We didn't get great news there. We have yet to meet with them, but we know that the cost to insure is certainly not favorable with us getting involved. We hoped that perhaps we could change some of that around. That was kind of a key factor. I don't know if the clerk has anything to add to that. That's the extent of what we know at this point. So we've yet to meet with them. We asked them to get some information, and they have provided that information to us. So we will meet with them in the near future. So the garbage collection costs, there will be on September 26th Committee of the Whole, there'll be requests coming to consider weekly pickup. The reason why it's on that date is because Waste Check will also be in attendance, and they could not attend this meeting. We figured that you should be armed with all the relevant information before making any sort of decision. And the East Pubnico Playground is actually attached for further discussion and or decision.
And that stems from a letter that we received in May, is that correct, from Kay Nickerson?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Kendra Nickerson,
yes.
yeah, she signs Kay Nickerson. And so there's a proposed motion, but do you want to speak on the reason?
They had a public meeting for the different organizations in the area. Are you talking about the playground?
Yes.
Okay. So they had a public meeting. They invited all the different organizations, the fire department, the women's auxiliary, me from the municipality, anybody else that wanted to attend to find out, because their committee is dwindling down and there's not very many people that want to volunteer, so they're finding it hard to make fundraisers. So they were just asking for help. So I'm seeking help to help them out, to see what we can do for them, if there's anything we can do for them. So I just want this, if I could have staff to look for different ways of maybe helping them out to keep this playground going, because it's a good playground.
And so you're willing to make that proposed motion? Motion to have staff look at ways to help the existing committee or the community to maintain the playground?
Yeah, I think he has a question.
I do have a question, yeah, but I don't know if I can discuss on
Yes.
this as a motion.
We should have somebody make a
I'll
motion,
make the
second.
motion. I'll make the motion.
I made the motion, you want
Okay,
to
I'll
second?
second.
Okay,
Yeah, my question is, and whether it be Kathy or I'll add on this, fundraising staff to fundraise. Would that be our staff's work to do the fundraising?
No. It's
Okay, just because it's in
I was
here.
just giving, their complaint was that they're having problems of finding people to fundraise, to keep the playground going, because there's always new things to buy, there's
Right,
sand to buy, whatever they need to fix the toys that are on the playground, insurance, things like that, that's all.
but they wouldn't, the staff wouldn't be there to fundraise, but they.
No,
and I
they're just
understand what you're
looking
saying.
a certain way, yeah.
You've cleared
There's
it
only
up
like
and-
2 or 3 of them that's left from the group, and they were just looking at other ways maybe.
Thank you. Okay, let's clarify that. Yeah.
ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Excuse me, Mr. Warden. My computer, iPad is froze up. Could I speak to IT for a minute?
Sure.
I can't open up anything, I can't close it, I can't.
Mine was a minute ago, it cleared. Yeah, just couldn't open anything. Yeah.
We'll take that recess, who's talking
Cleared.
about.
Just goes like that.
What's that?
We'll take that recess, who's gonna penalize you.
Yeah, that's right. We'll take it back. Okay.
Good to go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to councilor's report.
That man's word, he's weight in gold. Thank you.
Councilor's report, do we have anything?
Aye. Yeah.
Councilor LeBlanc.
I made a list here very quickly. I did attend a meeting with Councillor Murphy about issues at the Comeau Hill, not issues at the beach, but issues with the potential future of the beach, but I believe that's on the agenda, so we'll speak to that later. I also believe you guys may have got an email, I know I did, but I can't remember if you guys were all invited as well, but you are certainly invited to the Wedgeport Trail opening. You have to RSVP by September 19th. It's on the 23rd, I believe, at 6 p.m. in Wedgeport, and they'll be giving a slight tour of the trail itself. There'll be other activities that evening at the Tuna Museum, so it should be a great event. And then as well, we just finished our tuna tournament in Wedgeport at the end of August, which was once again a great success. It was asked that I know letters were sent, but that I would tell council that it was much appreciated, the grants donation we gave to them to help make it a success, because it's iffy every year whether the weather's gonna cooperate or the tuna are gonna cooperate, and that's the funding that makes our museum, which is also a community center, operate the whole year. And as I mentioned, that at the closing ceremonies, our museum doesn't get regular government funding, it's self-sustained, so this tournament helps to do that, and the municipality's donations is graciously appreciated. I'd like to also take just a quick second to congratulate Evo Woodrow, who won on the Capitaine Simo. The name of the vessel was the Capitaine Simo. They won the largest bluefin. I'm seeing some smiles from that end of the table there. I believe we may have it slipped my mind, I forgot. I was wondering why I was smiling, but we may have a participant at the table here who helped catch a 703-pound bluefin tuna, I believe, which is a beast of a fish. It's a beautiful fish, so that was really great to see, and people came from all around to experience that great event. And I'm a little biased, but I'm going to say it's the best event we have in our municipality. So thank you all for
Gotta
your
text my
contribution.
brother right away. Merci.
That's it, thanks.
Councilor,
Thank you.
Acadian?
I'm gonna back up, I guess, a couple of words that my fellow councillor said. I attended some of the festivals this summer in West Pubnico, Argyle, and Wedgeport, and also attended the Labor Day supper, and I believe it was the 134th annual supper out in Quinnan. And I know sometimes the municipality gives money for these festivals or for halls to keep going and that, or help them out. And when you're out to these functions, it's a great thing to see all these volunteers working the way they do, to put these festivals on, to make them work and work well. And that, so it was really, you know, a good feeling on our part, knowing that we are part of that, sometimes helping them out. And also volunteered at the École Pubnico West for a fundraiser for the Foyer École, was a huge success. And also went to the IWK fundraiser down in Pubnico, which was also a huge success, so thank you.
Councillor Muse, Deputy Warden Muse.
Okay, attended a meeting. There's a group that's formed, and it's through the Signage. And the name of the group, it was Groupe Communautaire pour l'accueil des nouveaux arrivants, which means it's not a welcoming committee, but it's a group to help people that are moving in, to try and give them what there is, try to encourage them for the municipality of Argyll. Like they have 4 groups. They have in all 4 municipalities, French municipalities, Clare, Argyll, and 2 in Cape Breton. We're still trying to get it together. However, we're probably going to need some more volunteers. We're probably going to need people involved. Anyway, I will have more later on. It's a 3-year project that Signage got funding for, and it has to do with the immigrants, the people that are coming in. It can be people from Ontario moving in or whatever, trying to welcome them in our area and show them what there is to offer in our area. Had a session with Co-op Housing Federation Canada. Very, very interesting session that we had. I think Chris, you were there. They were trying to explain how co-ops work, and it would be a source of affordable housing is what we're looking at. Now, to form a co-op, of course, you got to have an organization. You have to apply. You have to form a group. But there's a group called Compass, and Compass, they're already established. They're outside. They're in Halifax or in that area, and they would be interested in having units in different communities. Okay, so that means that we wouldn't have to form anything. It would be under their umbrella, right? And that would give us affordable housing in our area. The only thing is, they don't want to just go and have, let's say our guy wants 3 units. They're not going to be interested in doing that. But they're looking at the tri-counties, and their goal is, they set a goal of about 50 units. But that's not just in Argyll. It could be Digby County, it could be Clare, it could be wherever, Shelburne. They have to buy into the project as well. We're looking at that with I'm on the housing committee choice, and with their help and whatever, we're going to try and pursue that. They would be looking at where they even looked around for where lots could be bought, or they even want to know if the municipality had anything that we could, as a municipality, provide as a place to build these, right? So they're very positive. I mean, we've been talking about affordable housing for a long time, and I think this is finally an opportunity that if we can buy into that and join that, I think it would be great for the municipality, for sure. So that's the only 2 things I've had, and I don't know if I've had a request again, and I brought that before, and it's to do with a street light, and it's at the corner here, that the hanging oak, they've been paying for that light for 30 years now. And as far as they're concerned, they're leaving it there not because they want it for the business, but it's a corner. It needs a light. And the department, I guess, I contacted the department last year and didn't get any response or any kind of interest because the light is there. They're not gonna move until, but they wanna know if it would fall under our policy. So that's something I think we're probably gonna get an application for that anyway. I also attended the, we volunteer. My wife and I volunteer at the Quinnen supper every year. And it's a great fundraiser and it's a busy day. They open at 2 o'clock and by 6:30 we finally start sitting down that we can eat. So anyway, it's a great function. I also attended the Tuna Festival. So I guess that's all I have.
Anybody else? Councillor Murphy?
First off, I'd like to thank Councillor LeBlanc for coming to that meeting. The residents that were there really appreciated it. They talked kindly, like, you know, and to see someone there and to support, or, you know, to give their 2 cents worth. And then I thank you again. And I also attended the Tuna Festival. One day there was so many people. I met a bunch, but there's like I was looking for you, but I knew you were there, but there were so many people.
There's that many people.
Yeah, like my brother was there. He was there, and I never saw him. I never saw him. We were in the tent. We were, you know, tried out some sushi, and you know, the wife and I, and so it was well attended, and it was it's nice to see that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to the CAO's report, or the staff report. We'll turn to the CAO and let him brief us on our priorities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. So first of all, I just want to give an update on a couple of the larger projects, one of which is on the agenda, the municipal building and the survey that we received from the public, so I'll wait until then to have any sort of update for you on that. Aquaculture and track and field, our second application for track and field was denied by ACOA. It just doesn't fit their criteria, and based on our staff report, we have to find a different way and a different funder probably in order to be successful with that particular project. So staff's objectives would be, because we know this is a priority for you and it's been ongoing for a while, so our objectives is to analyze what other sources of revenue or funders could actually work in this instance. I can tell you right now that it is federal gas tax eligible, but council has competing priorities that all go after that money, so that money has a certain limit. So it could be one of the discussions that we have in the near future. If we have a conversation about using the federal gas tax for this particular project, it's probably a broader conversation about, okay, well, what are we not doing if we're doing this, right? And so that's the whole concept of capital priorities and operational priorities, and that's what we would do. So it might reopen or open up a conversation about what do we do from a priorities perspective. So unless, of course, we host a national event or something similar, that way ACOA would become an eligible funder. That's the criteria that we're not hitting right now. So we could spend a lot of time actually going after and successfully obtaining that, or we could spend that time more or less to find other funding options. My personal thought on that is ACOA is moving more towards the business side of funding, and we have other opportunities, i.e. under aquaculture, that we feel that would be a very attractive investment for ACOA. So that might be a way into ACOA. ACOA is looking to fund some of our projects. They haven't funded one of our projects in a while, so they have they're sympathetic to the fact that their criteria isn't meeting what we're looking for. They're still very encouraged to support one of our projects, and I think aquaculture, once we develop the second phase of this process, they could be a very active participant. So moving into aquaculture, Charlene is really leading the file around the funding we received from the province, which is to monitor and measure the temperature, depths, and nutrients in our water. So that is occurring, that is happening. And when that project is completed and we have the data, there'll be the end result will be a website or a web page that would outline all that information, which will make it easier for investors to come in and take a look at this region and say, well, this is a good region to do oyster farming, or this is a good, I mean, we know already about that it's a good region to do oyster farming because it's happening, but we don't know where else in this region it would be useful to grow that industry. So that work is a long-term project. So the project that if you recall, Bouctouche Bay came and did the presentation, it was kind of eye-opening around these cages and how they become almost partners with the people who buy these cages around determining what the success factors of aquaculture, and they had a really good track record that way. And so, there isn't, we think, staff thinks we have a role to play in potentially growing that industry if we were to just focus our efforts in taking a look at what would be required. So still early days around the actual industry growth itself. Right now, the work that's being done by our economic development officer is the gathering of information. Danny, Councillor Muse hit the affordable and alternative housing. Yarmouth Airport Corporation, I will take a moment to speak about that. There's been quite a few changes there. They did have a race and a celebration of the anniversary recently. So they had the runway mile, or I think that's what they called it. Anyway, so I didn't participate, but I had spoken with somebody who did, and they said it was very dark. It felt long because it's all like straight away, and you'd be surprised how much of a hill there is there. So anyway, that was a little insightful. But currently what's happening is we have temporarily closed one of the runways just for safety precaution. The other runway is open and ready for business. They're actually doing some repairs on that as today, in fact. And we have been accepted to decertify the airport from a 302 to a 301, which doesn't change any of the current activity that's going in and out of the airport at the moment, as you know. It does temporarily deny us the opportunity to put in regular passenger service at that airport. So the manager is currently developing a plan of action for the future of the airport, including an HR plan and other cost constraining recommendations that will come about. And the board recently approved a transfer of funding. If you recall, we had put money aside for the economic development officer to go after certain opportunities. The board has indicated that a portion of that money ought to be used to identify the capital requirements, so that may require us to engage third-party experts to understand what we're looking at, from runway repair, for lighting repair, and other similar types of refurbishments. So that work is ongoing, and our MLA and MP will be kept informed of that process, because the future of future funding will require the other levels of government in order to be successful. So that work is ongoing. I hope to have more to report at next month's staff meeting, or staff report. We have received a couple more lending program applications, so I think we're at 3, perhaps even 4 now. I believe there's only 3. And demolition is underway at Domtex. There are still some delays with the work. And I think based on, and of course, I'll mention very quickly, with a leave of absence of our Director of Finance, We want to assure you that the filing deadlines for the provincial documents have all been met. And so we have just one other to submit, which is the financial information return, which can only be submitted after you approve the audited financial statements, which will occur at the end of the month. So I would stop there, and if there are any questions about any part of that report.
Councillor Surratt.
I don't know if I probably maybe should have added this to the agenda, but something I didn't see here in your report, and I guess it's a question, is the Mariner Centre expansion one of our priorities? I don't think it is a priority of council. I don't remember it being, but maybe one of the, maybe on the 3 units, this is what I might be making a mistake on.
There was no motion to entertain that project as a priority of the Council of the Municipality of Argyle. There were conversations at the regional table around 3 or more projects, airport, the port/wharf, the terminal, I should say, that was the proper term. The track and field was also mentioned, and the Mariner Centre. So there were four projects that were mentioned, and the only motion we have at the regional level is that the airport was the number 1. So there has been some action from the volunteer group that is looking to fundraise and do other things in order to take a look at the Mariner Centre to make it more of a multi-purpose facility, but there's been no motion at this table
Very good, just wanted to
to
clarify.
confirm that
Thank you.
yet. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Brooke.
I just wanted to ask a question about the East Pubnico water utility. I see that the engineers have suggested that major repairs need to be done, especially the water tank on Willett Road. Is that something that has to be done in a year's time, 2 years' time?
There's a significant amount that had been listed by the Public Works Director. It was he'd estimated around $1.2 million to do the full from top to bottom. I don't have a specific time frame on when the tank would be end of life. It's certainly towards the end of its end of life. Don't think it's extraordinarily urgent. There are other things on the utility that are more urgent. There are like panels and pumps and some of the other equipment that is definitely end of life, and in our budget we have set aside a portion of money to do some of that work. The work hasn't been tendered and the work hasn't been executed as of yet, but the Public Works Director is clearly aware that there's an issue there. I don't have a timeline for the tank. It won't be this year for sure, but it could, we have to establish whether his estimate of price is accurate. But he did suggest that the current water tank is oversized. I would like to, our plan is to engage the users as part of the decisions that need to be made on the utility at this time.
Thank you.
Councillor Dianton.
Just, I guess, to add to CAO Muse's comments about the Starlight Runway run, I attended it. There was 250 people who attended. It wasn't all around. There was you could walk a kilometer or whatever, but it was very well organized and quite an event. It was pretty neat to run at night on a runway. The only thing, it was foggy, which I guess in some ways added to the run, but in other ways kind of, you could be running next to people that your neighbors, and you really didn't know who you were running with, right? It was an interesting run and a really good event. So, and I guess if they have it again next year, I'll probably go again. So.
Councillor Surratt.
A question on affordable and alternative housing, and maybe Danny might be involved in this question too a little bit. Our priority was, if I remember right, was to try to get something in Argyle, if it was at all possible. When you spoke, Danny, about these meetings, there was a compass, and I saw some compass. So that could be putting affordable housing maybe somewhere else instead of Argyle, which is our priority. but it doesn't mean we shouldn't have, no matter where we get it, we should take it, right? So does Compass look like it still wants to go somewhere else?
It's up to
With
you.
Danny, if Danny would do
Danny
it.
was at the,
On
Well,
that one?
what it is, yes, it would be in Argyle, but not the 50. What they're talking about is they would like to have, they don't want to come and build a few units. If they're gonna do that, they want more, right? So it could be, you might get 12 in Argyle, we don't know.
We don't know.
Right? But definitely, it would be in Argyle. Not saying it would be in Tusket. There
No.
could be a few in Wedgeport, could be a few in Pubnico,
you.
could, wherever, right?
Yeah.
But if they could find a piece of property that could fit more than two, then they would be more than happy to do that as well, right? So it would be up to the municipality how many we think we need as well. They're not gonna build them unless we can prove that the need is there either,
demand is
right?
there.
They're not gonna just put a bunch there, not knowing whether or not there's gonna be people wanting these. But I think if that was ever to happen, you would get people to fill them, I
Our,
think. yeah.
Senior coordinator has identified the numbers, and she has numbers
Okay,
of
yeah,
people that are ready, and we had a meeting here.
yeah.
With all that. Good.
So you might wanna add, I
Thank
don't
you.
know
No,
if
that's
I
great,
could, there was
Daniel.
no-
well, what it comes down to is these kinds of projects, sometimes you have to partner to be successful.
That's right.
And that's, you know, if you want something for your own, you gotta think bigger and look bigger. And that's what Compass
Yeah.
would do, yeah.
Because if we only, let's say we were able to get 12, and nobody else around wants any, I don't think they would be interested in going with a project for 12. They said 50, but they also indicated that, well, I mean, I'm sure they would bend, you know, for less if the interest was there, so.
Thank you, Danny.
Excuse me.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. Just I see the water supply lending program. I was speaking with a recipient of one of those programs, one of those loans, and the person is very happy. They have water there now, and very thankful for that loan being available to them through the municipality. And I was just wondering, Mr. Muse, CAO, if you'd take a minute just to explain, if there's anyone watching us, or just explain what that is and what we may be able to do for them.
Go ahead.
Absolutely, yes, so the, first of all, it was enabling legislation, so it was the law, but it's the province that allowed this to happen. So we weren't allowed to do this a year ago, well, maybe a year ago, but not much. It's been about a year since we've been allowed to do it, and what it allows us to do is to lend up to $15,000 on a project that includes a well digging or drilling on somebody's residence. It has to be their primary residence, they have to live there. There are some eligibility requirements. They get a quote, hopefully a competitive one, from local people who do the work or wherever they want it. We don't, it's not our work, so we don't force them to pick someone. Alls we're doing is loaning them the money. So our requirement is that they have their taxes paid up in full. So we don't do any credit checks or anything like that. We're not in the position to do that. And so if somebody was to do a work for $8,500, including HST, which they would have to pay, we can't, it's not our expense, so we can't recover that. So we would lend them that money, and they would pay us a monthly fee with 3% interest over a 10-year period. So 3% interest is, you know, fairly reasonable, and the 10-year period allows for the payment to be fairly affordable. Now there are downsides, as anything, it's treated just like property tax. So if there's missed payments and if it goes in arrears for a number of years, it could go to tax sale. So the property, that's how we assure ourselves of collection, just like any other property tax. And so that's kind of like the ugly kind of side of things, but it's been a very positive, people have looked at it very positively, and I'm not aware of anybody missing payments at this time, or we just started. And so, you know, I'm glad to hear that the resident in question was happy with the result.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I just add one thing
Yes.
on the subject? just so you know, Compass is a not-for-profit organization. They're not, it's not a business, okay? So, just so you know that, it's not a business trying to make money.
Okay.
Okay. Should comment that we do get a very good staff report every month, and there's a lot to it that's not touched on here, so it's very well done, so thank you.
Thank you to staff as well, thanks.
We'll move on. Other business and for decision. The bylaw for the Wedgeport Wastewater District Amendment, second reading.
I'll move that we approve the second reading of bylaw number 37 for the Westport Wastewater District Amendment to encompass
Second.
more of an area.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. And we have another bylaw, second reading, the Directional Signage Amendment. Okay. Would you like to has there been any major changes since the first reading? All highlighted in yellow is the changes, I believe, right?
I'll also move that we approve.
Since the first?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Request for tax relief and interest. Taking a minute to open. So this is basically housekeeping that we do usually once or twice a year, right?
That's correct. I will note that one of the properties, there was a trailer that was located. The thing about mobile homes of that nature is that we don't have the same powers of collection as we would under real estate. So what happens if there is taxation on a trailer and the trailer disappears or whatever and it becomes uncollectible, we cannot sell the real property, being the land, for tax sale for that purpose. So we don't have a strong of a collection in those particular instances. It's never really been a major problem because there's not that many, but it is. You should just be aware that it does not susceptible to the same rules as the other property that is immobile, I guess, property.
Do you need a motion for the relief
I
of
do,
taxes?
I do, sir, and I noted that one because that's by far the largest of the three.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just give you context of what that was about.
Yeah, I'd be willing to make that motion
I'll second it.
for the relief of taxes for those three properties, or three pieces that we have there.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Civic sign budget, 2 pages.
I'd like to move that we approve the director's request to increase civic sign program budget to allow the Department of Public Works to continue the program to the end of the fiscal year. And that move that the civic sign program budget be increased from 2,000 to 4,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Our job to keep up.
Oh, it should be.
Okay, Comeau's Hill Public Beach Area Lease.
Yes, we've had some
Councillor Murphy,
problems.
you would like to speak on that?
Yes, I would. We've had some problems with the committee that was formed a few years ago for the beach in Comeau's, at the end of Comeau's Hill. To make it kind of short, everything was taken away out of there. It's all gone. It's completely bare. It's nothing. All the benches were taken away. The change room was taken away. The picnic tables were taken away. The gate, there was a gate there with cement pillars, and that was all smashed by the former committee. Something happened, I don't know exactly, but anyways, it's a nice beach and it's used a lot by everybody in the municipality and elsewhere. It's a nice place. And there's a lot of kids that go there. There's, you know, it's a nice sand beach. It's the water, the view of the Tusket Islands, everything's, you know, everything's in place, like, but it's all gone. And so I got people involved to form another committee, which Councillor LeBlanc was at that meeting of the first one. And last night, I went to another meeting there last night, and they formed their committee. There's a new president, there's a new vice president, there's a new secretary treasurer, there's volunteers to help to rebuild this. Where it comes down is the lease with DNR. They gave up the lease also, which the lease is due at the end of September. And they were worried that they would lose the beach, like if DNR, if nobody stepped up to the plate and renewed that another lease for this new committee. I gave our clerk all the information, all the names of this new committee. What I'd like to see in that is to make a motion to, not for the municipality of Argyle to take over the lease, but to help this new committee form this new lease through them, like, you know, not the municipality, but them, as it was before. It wasn't the municipality that had the lease. It was the committee that had the lease. So just making a motion to, I'd like to support from council, if I could, to make sure of it, or to see if the municipality would give a letter of support to DNR that this new committee wants to take over this lease. So,
Second? You made that a motion, right?
yes, I did.
Just curious, if I may.
Yes, I have, yeah. You're probably gonna ask the question I was thinking.
Possibly no, because I was at the same meeting and I had understood the meeting that because of timeframes, because it's up at the end of the month, I think initially you wanted council to take the lease, and then when the new committee was structured, to move it to them. That's not what you're looking for now?
No, it would be better, I think, is to get them, and with the guidance of council,
Right.
to help them get this lease.
Because I think there was, because I'm just trying to understand here, because it's a new committee, maybe there was, because they're inexperienced.
Yes.
They didn't, is that what it is?
It is.
Maybe staff could help them acquire that
Yes.
lease like the previous, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Right, because
Yeah.
I think that's the feeling I got from the new members,
Yes.
or I'm assuming they're the same
Yes.
people who are the new members.
Yeah.
That they're, you know, basically from what I understood is, the old committee's defunct. They were told by DNR to put the beach back to its natural state prior to the lease, and that's why everything was cleaned up. However, what happened, there was frustrations from the community because they did so sort of, not quietly, but they didn't make a big public hoorah about it. So the community felt that they were wrong in the sense that instead of being told the beach is going to get taken, not the beach itself, but the facilities that are getting taken apart because it is a law, to put it back to its natural state prior to the lease. The community felt like it was done like sort of in a hidden way. So anyway, there was a little bit of a hoorah there. But once it was all said and done, you said that the new committee is willing
Yeah,
to
the
do
new
it.
committee's there, and also, I did get a phone call from our MLA, Chris D'Entremont, and he did talk with DNR, and DNR had never told the committee that it had to be removed.
That's hearsay.
Now
Like
I know.
that's- Yeah, back and forth. Councillor
I'm
D'Entremont?
just wondering about the old committee. I guess we were talking about the old committee and the new committee. So they had the lease. Is there a signed lease for a certain amount of time, or if the committee is defunct or whatever word we want to use, does that null the lease, or maybe our solicitor has some insight on that?
I saw that today, or in preparation for the meeting, and I'm being briefed as you're being briefed, so it's very difficult to determine. So, do you have a copy of the lease? I would have to need.
No, I
need to see
don't.
I need to see a copy of the lease. I didn't even know that there was there was an organization that was taking care of.
Oh, yeah, it's
of
been
that-
there, it's
of
been
that
in place for a while now.
For a while, so anyway, it would be prudent to strike off, ensure that if there is a formal committee that is incorporated under the Registry of Joint Stocks, a former one, it'd be good to strike it off.
I have this stuff here for them to fill out,
For the new organization.
for the new
Yeah.
organization, for joint stocks and everything
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. What would have been the name of the old one?
It was, Comeau's Hill, Little River, Recreation,
The old one?
yes.
Okay. I mean, I'll look it up, and if you want me to comment there, I can look it up through the Registry of Joint Stocks and just see. It may not have ever been formally incorporated, or do you know that it was?
Yeah, I'm quite sure it was,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it'd be prudent for it to be
yeah.
struck off.
Because they told me that they had contacted joint stocks and they were,
It was formally incorporated.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Be prudent that it be done, and that there be copies of the release of the lease provided to the new committee, so that and a new lease be signed. All those things would be prudent for them to do, okay?
Okay.
So, and if you need to contact me for,
Okay.
summary comments, I can make those too.
thank
You
you.
know, on a little bit more of an ad hoc basis.
Councillor Surratt.
Councillor Murphy, do you know if there's a deadline on this lease? Like, has it got to be signed by the end of September, or you don't know that?
Well, I think the municipality was contacted, I talked to our clerk and they sent a letter in to see if we wanted to take over the lease. I think that's what it was.
That's what it
And,
This
but
is the
since, yeah, there's a letter there. So since I got this new committee started last night, then, they wanna do it right, they wanna start it, and they don't wanna let this thing go, because it's a beautiful spot down there, so,
Go there with you?
yeah, so.
So before we have the vote, this motion involves staff. Is there anybody from staff that would like to comment on this? Do you see any difficulties with this, or?
Well, what I'm hearing is that if this goes in the positive, and we learn subsequent to that for whatever reason, this new incorporated company doesn't get incorporated by the deadline, and that the deadline is in fact a deadline, and that has to be respected, then I think your intention as council would be that the new organization obtain that lease, and so we would do whatever it took for that to happen. So if that meant that we had to temporarily get in the middle, then I suppose that would be consistent with the intent of the motion. I think ideally, we would just help them get there.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
and that would be what we would do, and we don't have any issue with that. It's not a difficult endeavor to incorporate a nonprofit society. It shouldn't, the time frame around that should be reasonable. We should be able to do this. I'll defer to our solicitor to see if there's any legal issue around.
Well, I'm looking here, and yes, there is an incorporated society called the Comeau Hill and Little River Harbor Recreational Association. They're up to date. They have as a chair John Fitzgerald, Donnie Jacquard is on there, Robert Harris, Mary Muse, Jerome Jacquard, and those are and Robert Jacquard is the recognized agent. Now, having said what I said earlier, it just dawns on me. If this association does other things, they don't want to disband. They may do other things in the community, so that association may not want to disband.
No, they did say they're disbanding. Robert was gonna call joint stocks and disband.
Yeah, all right.
And I do believe they also mentioned that some of those names have been voted out, and
Yeah.
it's not been updated on the
Yeah.
Stocks website.
Another solution is that they not disband, that the whole board resign, and that the new board come in and they just take over this association, but they might be better to create their new one.
Well, I think because everything was taken and gone.
Yep, so it's just a question of disbanding it, or what we call winding it up by some
Yeah.
nature, and incorporating a new one. And to incorporate a new nonprofit society, most councillors on the table may have done so themselves anyway, so it's not that complicated a
Yeah.
process. But then it's the issue of negotiating the lease with DNR, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, and negotiating the lease with DNR, and perhaps seeing what those conditions are. It's not that complicated to set that up. It's more of a community-related issue than it is a legal issue. I think
Thank
that-
you.
Thank you.
Councillor Surratt, you have more discussion.
Just one more question was, any liability if we, as a council, go there and we have, maybe to take over the lease? We may have to take it for a bid.
I would
there be
dissuade,
liability?
I would perhaps encourage council more so to facilitate the handover of the lease
Rather
from DNR to the new association than to take over the lease. Certainly,
That's
that's
what I need.
a good valid question.
If that's what they wanted, that's what they want.
Simply facilitate, but not necessarily take it over.
They also asked that we ask council, they didn't know, no one seemed to know who was liable if an accident were to happen at that site.
Yeah.
And the possibility of obtaining some sort of liability insurance might be appropriate.
They were unaware if they had liability insurance, and they were wondering if
So it's best to create a new association.
It's a
Yeah.
great question.
Yeah.
Great.
sort of like, they were wondering sort of like the properties we own, we know the municipality doesn't own that property, but they were wondering if the municipality held liability coverage over that property, like some of its playgrounds or ball fields or things like that. The answer is no.
No, we don't have any liability insurance for that particular location. That question I would ask first of the Department of Natural Resources to understand what kind of coverage they may have. It is their land, so, and the lease
Right.
agreement could specify
Yes.
how that liability gets distributed. But there would be, 9 times out of 10, if something bad happened there, they might both be held responsible, but we don't know until we see the agreement.
Any lawsuit that would emanate from any incident would include as defendants both the owner and the operator. There's no doubt.
For
about
sure.
it.
They would name them, whether they're
Whether they're
whether they're
active or not.
responsible or not,
That's
they'd
right.
be named.
Responsibility is determined at later.
So I guess just my advice moving in the future, if staff is going to help this new association, is to bear in mind liability insurance. That was a major concern of theirs.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next one is West Pubnico sewer connection request from Cecil D'Altremont. Would you like to speak on this, Calvin?
I guess it's the first that I see of it, but I am requesting permission from the municipal council to hook up the sewer system in Lower West Pubnico, and I guess I don't see no reason why I'd make it a motion.
Second.
I assume this is the former school teacher, Cecil.
Could be, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
I'll be done.
The reason why council's being asked is the distance from his residence to the main exceeds the policy. It would automatically be approved if it was within that distance. Outside of that distance requires council approval, and that's why you're seeing the letter.
And thank you for that, because that was a question as a new counselor. I was wondering if they have to make a request each time.
No, only if they exceed the rules inside the bylaw, I should say, not the policy.
Thank
the
you.
wastewater.
Anything over 150 feet.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. The next one is, I need stronger glasses. Tusket Falls Brewing Company, new disposal system. Would you like to speak on that?
I would.
CAO?
I would, Mr. Warden. So the low bid received for the public tender process for this work is Gary Belleville Construction and Excavation Limited at total fees of $43,529, including the HST. This is within our original budget for this project. We had, if you recall, a big scare around this initially. The number was probably missing a zero or had a zero on it prior to. And so that scare being past us, and now that we've received, now that we have a dose of reality, this will come within the $50,000 budget that we proposed. I should also, so I would certainly recommend a motion to approve that work, but I will also say that this work, because it's through the wastewater district, will be a shared cost. So the client in question will be paying 1/3 of the cost, just like all of the other customers on that particular project would do in a funded environment of that nature. So gas tax will cover 2/3 of this cost, and 1/3 will be covered by the user themselves. There is an agreement in place that you should be aware of that allows for additional growth. So for instance, the company in question, if there is another company that does the same type of work and that requires that disposal system in order to do that work, they can get access to this investment. So it's not only an investment for a company, it's an investment in our own wastewater system to allow other companies of a similar nature to grow in that industry. And so this is the brewery industry, just so that everybody's clear. It's not private information, it's public information. So, the customer in question will then have the option to pay all at once or over time, just like the other residents would have. So that's the full story.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I'll tell you one thing, they've got, Mr. Chair, to certainly fix the front of that building, the land and that. If you have a chance to go in the business park, it looks sharp. You're really doing a dang job on it.
Yeah. You should, as a council, you should also know that staff under the Public Works Department took it upon themselves, because the Department of Transportation did not or would not clear the ditching in the area. So our staff took it upon themselves to clear the ditching area, and this would be on the main road 308 and also into a section of Slocum Crescent. So that opened up for, it was actually a request of the Université Saint-Anne, because they were going to do improvements to their signage. And I'm like, well, we do improvements to the signage if somebody would actually see it from the road. So so that work was done by our people, your staff, our staff. So that you know.
Good. Okay, the next one is disposal system replacement project for the Wedgeport Wastewater Management District. And I see there's some winning bids here. So would you like to, I went over this last night. There's a fair bit of information. Would you like to brief us, CAO?
Sure. So this is the Wedgeport Wastewater Project, the big project. We issued 4 tenders in 4 different groups, like 4 groups of tenders, for 5 or 6 properties. So we have 22 properties that will receive this improvement in these decisions that we require from you today. So the prices are slightly higher than we expected, and we account that to the fact that our local bidders that would typically bid this work are over capacity. They did not bid this work, so we had people from the outside bid. It's not tremendously higher, but it is higher because of the demand currently for this type of work. But still fairly within budget. We, as you know, are planning on doing 44 of these properties. Right now we are not at 44 in terms of commitments, but we are over 30. I believe the number is 34 or 36. So we're really closing in on that 44 number that we said that we would. However, if the budget per site if the actual per site is higher, we will not get to 44 because of that reason. So the group 1, so there's different groupings, and there's different recommendations. Also, in our procurement policy, I remind you that we do have the local 10% benefit, which means that for work done locally, they get a benefit under normal circumstances. In this circumstance, because of the amount of the work, that particular policy does not apply. So what you'll see is that there are prices, and there's in one case, there's like 200 and something dollars different.
Yeah.
One of them is more local than the other, but they are the higher bid. But because of the procurement policy, the way that it's written, it only applies to projects, I believe the number is 25,000 or lower. So we cannot actually apply that type of preference for larger projects. And that's not just because we chose to. There's legislation that you know, that we have to follow.
Neither was in our municipality anyway.
That is correct. That is correct.
One was more local.
One was more local than the other. I'll go through these collectively or individually because I think each require a separate motion. So the first is, I guess, Group 1, the recommendation that it would be Dennis Lively Construction and Backhoe Services Limited would be awarded the contract that I would call Bid Evaluation Group 1.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
So that amount was 93,000 plus HST. The second one was 98,000, so obviously the lower one
Is there a
carried.
deadline, is there a deadline on these things, like, should it be done by the end of this year, or
This work
We've
will
got
be done
March,
by the
right?
end of December.
end of December?
This work will be done before the winter hits. Yep, that's the commitment that we've received and that we've asked of this group. So all four of the groups. So bid evaluation group number 2, the low bid was 109,836 plus HST. Gary Belleville Construction and Excavation was the successful or the lowest bid, and that's the recommendation for you.
So moved.
Okay. I'll second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Group 3 is, the low bid was 104, 104,000 even. The other bid was 104,266.
Phew,
And
and 60 cents?
And 60 cents, so that was pretty close. So the successful applicant was Dennis Lively Construction and Backhoe Services Limited. That is the recommendation for award.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by
Aye.
against. Motion carried. And the last one?
And the last one is actually a local company that is the lowest bid, Spinney Excavating. This is 81,521 plus HST. The other two bids are over 100,000. All the checks and considerations have been done, so we are recommending the project be awarded to Spinney Excavating.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Now, the contractors, do they know that or will they be notified?
They'll be notified today or tomorrow. We'll get the work going right away. There is another matter that I wish to disclose publicly, is that we had a request from a local entrepreneur, or a question regarding where these tanks are being purchased. So the tanks, I can't answer the question to where each of these subcontractors are obtaining these tanks. I can confirm that they're not obtaining it from the local dealer. So apparently there's a local dealer for these tanks that these bidders were probably not aware that he in fact was the local dealer. Some of the locals would have known that, but since we didn't have a significant amount of local bidding, that was unknown to the bidders. So what we will be doing is, with the motions that you've passed, we will be approaching the winners and asking them, confirming where they got the tanks, and if the change order is in question or could be arranged, then we will arrange that, because it does not change the competitiveness of the bids. So it would be a very, very small component of each of these bidders. And from a competitive perspective, they all had the opportunity to competitive price their labor and their services. So there's no issue around the competitiveness of the bid. We can actually go to the lowest bidder now that you've approved and make amendments if we feel that they are required. So we will be engaging in conversations with the four winners, or I guess there's not four, there's two that are the same. To take a look at, okay, what was your tank costing, and here's you know, we have a local dealer that you were not aware of, we should be looking at a change order to make sure that that is done properly. And also, the last piece is the fact that one of the proposed solutions, we will be changing that solution because it's less expensive to do it that way. And again, it would not change the competitiveness of any of the bids. It's only in one particular property. So, or sorry, there were 2 properties in question where we had a traditional solution that we will have to change that makes it less intrusive for the resident. So there's less digging, there's less damage done to the property and should be less expensive. So in the interest of true transparency around purchasing, that is what's gonna happen after your motion, obviously after we tell them that it's good.
Councillor Surratt?
Are we allowed to go into somebody that bid on the project and tell them you have to buy at this place? I would think that if I bid on a contract for tires, nobody usually tells me that I have to buy in my local area. If I already bid.
We're not, the change order that we'll be requesting is, we want for them to be in contact directly with the supplier. So we believe that they don't have the information. So to your point, your example where, you know all the tires and you're gonna get the best price for the best tire.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know there was a Blizzak that was over in this end, that
Yes.
was more efficient, less costly, and somebody came to you and said, look, can you price me that one instead? You would do that. And so that's all we're doing.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. We're just engaging the lowest bidder and asking them to take a look at that particular situation because we believe that they did not have full information when they made the bid.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes a lot of
Councillor
sense.
Mute?
Same question I had.
Yeah. Now, I will say that if the change was a significant change, like let's say 20-30% of the contract, we'd have to go back to tender. Because everybody needs to have the opportunity to be competitive and to
I
bid.
get you.
This is a very, very small component of the project, less than 5%. It's like 3%, 4% of the project.
Okay, we'll move on. Department of Health and Wellness, the EHS priority status, we received a letter back. And explaining priority and non-priority, and based on the letter that everybody received in their emails, it was, I believe that they would like to have these people, Emergency Health and Services, come meet with us.
Yeah.
Is that the feeling I got
I
from?
think so.
Oh, absolutely.
So would,
It's a cop of this.
so would you, have you, anybody been trying to set this up yet, or we?
Yeah, it's set up for the October 10th meeting.
Okay.
And now that presentation or meeting isn't with the Department of Health and Wellness, it's with EHS Services. So it's with the company that provides the service, not with the Department of Health and Wellness.
Okay,
Right over here.
so get your questions ready for October the
yes.
10th.
Okay.
Is there a time?
It's during the council meeting.
Oh.
Yeah, interesting.
That'll be open to the
I
public.
think it's
as-
October
by all
10th.
Yeah.
means.
Yeah, October 10th. Of course.
Okay, Commission on Effective Electoral Representation of Acadian and African Nova Scotians. Who would like to speak on this first? Would this be you, Ellen? CAO?
I can just provide some clarifying information for council. Number one, this is not a boundary review. So this is like pre-boundary review. So we've all been subjected to the boundary review conversation when the NDP decided to remove the Acadian protection. I think Solicitor Boudreau has one or two things to say about that, but we'll see, I guess. But anyway, sorry, I know.
Already said.
You did. So said and done. So there was, obviously, we're into a new reality now where the province has to take a look at, they have to address this question of Acadian representation. So this is the first step in determining whether or not there are other ways other than bringing back the original boundaries that would effectively represent the Acadians and African Nova Scotians in a similar way. So this, I'm not sure, I don't have a lot of information as to where this birthed. I know that La Fan, for instance, went on record to talk about there might be other ways, instead of just going back to the traditional boundaries, there might be other ways upon which people can think about this question. What I can also confirm with you is that we had, the protection was for Clare, Argyle, and Richmond, but was not for Cheticamp.
Correct.
And so the four, I mean, arguably, the four regions, I'm not sure if it's arguably actually, the four regions that were established post-deportation included Cheticamp. So prior to these changes, one of the four did not have that protection. You should be aware of that. And so what that means, I don't know. So effective representation, so they're gonna be receiving information from the public. All councillors have been invited to attend. Our position officially as council was status quo, which was there's no other way to be effective other than to be geographically a geographic representation of that region. And I believe that is also the position of the Conseil Acadien de Panamba.
Pretty sure.
It is, I don't think it's the position of La Fan. I think La Fan can't take a position, I don't think, because they represent the entire province and it's complex, it's a bit more complex for them. It's easy for Clare and Argyle to say leave it the way it is because that's what they want. But La Fan has to entertain varying points of view, including francophones in the Halifax, the greater Halifax area. So it's a bit more complicated for La Fan politically. So I think that's some of the clarification I have for you. That's about all the information I have at this time, and some of the CAPEB members may have additional information to share.
Deputy Warden Muse?
I'm just wondering, are we going to be, as a municipality, making a presentation
My
there
question, you
at
got
that,
it.
at that meeting it's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tomorrow night. Are we supposed to be making some kind of presentation, stating
Should we?
our stance on what we feel?
There's no supposed to be, it's really up to you. So
to
that's
each
why it's under
individual.
decision.
Because apparently I was under the impression that you had to have been on the agenda in order to make a presentation, but I was told this afternoon that no, you don't. That it's open to the public and
I'll be there.
any member can speak. You can just ask to speak while you're at the meeting. For some reason, I don't know where I had read that if you had anything, a presentation to make, that you had to submit it to whether this group or whatever, but I'm told that you don't have to. So
No.
it's up to us. But if we speak, let's say I speak, I'm speaking on behalf of myself then. I'm not speaking on behalf of the municipality.
Right now, if you're speaking on behalf of the municipality, you probably need a motion of this group
Exactly.
in order to be that spokesperson, and B, unless there's some change in your position, the only thing that you could say on behalf of council is that the only effective representation is the geographic representation and not some floating Acadian MLA in XY county, right?
At large.
At large,
At
right. So that would be the proper terminology, by the way.
floating.
They're not floating, they're actually on the ground. Gravity applies to the Acadians as well as any other group. So they're not floating. So anyway.
Just trying to anchor the point.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's come back to earth. So we can do this forever. So anyway, so that's, yeah.
Up
So
to each individual.
right,
if
now,
we
there's
want
nothing
to.
stopping individual councillors from making their position. There's nothing that stops Councillor Surratt from making his position, but I think he should be clear that he's speaking for
himself.
either council or himself.
And
Same goes by, I think, all staff. If I go in and I want to make a personal presentation or what I feel, I have to be very clear to the committee that I'm not speaking for council, and I won't speak for council.
No. Should
Actually.
we have a motion here
Oh, yes.
to just say what the position is of council?
We already
Because
have that.
if we don't, then I can't set a position for council because
Right. So,
we don't know that it is.
It-
I think it is, but
I mean, we could send it as a written request or.
You can even post
Yeah.
tomorrow, you can
Yeah.
put in send in a written
Yeah.
Right.
comment.
yeah.
Do you have our original motion, Chris, that you can bring up? There's
Try
no
to find
sense
We
in
should
it.
have somebody there. We
This
should have
would-
somebody
Oh,
there.
definitely.
I can assure you that on behalf of the municipality in 2012, when the Electoral Commission was going
Yes.
by, status quo was
Was
the
that-
argument. I can
exactly.
assure you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was present at both the select, and made my own presentations at the select committee
Right.
that set the terms of reference,
Yes.
and at the hearings in April, as well as the hearings in August of 2012. I was present, and the municipality of Argyle made it clear at that point in time, status quo. It was unanimous. No, sorry, there were a few divergent views, but none from the official, mainly from the Acadian, or from the Argyle municipality. Anybody from the Argyle municipality wanted or sought status quo.
Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. I'd be willing to make a motion that Deputy Warden Muse speak on behalf of the Argyle municipality tomorrow evening, I believe it is, representing the Acadian population of this municipality for this electoral representation of Acadian and African Nova Scotians.
Why wouldn't you have our warden, and I have nothing against
No.
our deputy warden, why shouldn't it be our warden?
Okay, it can be a
But no,
warden.
but I mean, I'm just saying, but there's no preference, but I would think you should.
I would be more comfortable if Danny done it.
Oh, okay, no, I just wanna be sure
But
that,
in your motion, are you saying that we're gonna go with the?
The former boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
All
what
right.
you're saying.
All boundaries.
And
of
I would
Acadian-
recommend that it be on behalf of all peoples of the people of Argyle, not only the Acadian community, but all
Yes,
peoples.
by all means. Yeah.
absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
I'll second
Definitely,
the
I would
motion.
like it to go back the way it was.
Same here.
So are we gonna use the motion we formerly had, or are we gonna make a new motion?
Oh, I didn't
Say
know.
basically
Mr.
what?
Diggins,
Just confirm your position.
I'm
Just
sorry,
confirm
I
your
do
No,
not know
his
it.
motion is for somebody to represent,
Speak.
speak, but what is he saying is what?
Very good question.
If I may, I don't think that I should be the only one to speak. If anybody else wants to speak, they should speak.
We only need one for,
I'll
on
be
behalf
speaking
of.
for
But-
myself.
I was gonna say,
Speaking on my-
I believe what Mr. CAO Muse said, that more than one can speak.
Yes, but only one can speak on behalf
On
of
behalf of the
the
municipality.
municipality.
And
Yes.
I made a motion, if you'd be willing to do that, I should have asked you first, sir, if you'd be willing to do that.
I'm gonna be there.
To speak on behalf of the municipality,
I will be there for sure.
Well, you can speak on behalf of the municipality, then you can speak on behalf of yourself.
of
I
yourself.
want to.
Well, if I speak on behalf of the municipality, it'll be the same as what I was speaking.
Right.
It'd be rather contradictory.
I have the exact
And if
same.
If any councillor or staff appear and contradicts what Mr.,
Yeah.
what the superintendent is gonna say,
Yeah. I'll speak and on behalf of the municipality, then I'll speak myself and I'll be just the opposite. I was told to say
There's
this.
a medical term for that.
Okay, this is gonna be a long, drawn-out process, I have an idea, so this is step one. So do we have any more discussion on Councillor Digdon's motion?
So, for clarity,
Yes.
because there's been no motion that is inconsistent with your original position,
That's what I was.
we are going to assume that Councillor Digdon has selected Deputy Warden Muse to represent our original position. So in absence of a motion saying otherwise,
Mhm.
the position does not change.
Does not change.
So, which means no change.
And I'll be able to get a copy of exactly what it was and whatever.
Yeah,
You can email that
we
to
will
me.
provide you with the motion,
Provide me with some information.
and we'll also provide you with the report
That's
that myself and Warden Donson will
That
deliver.
works good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, could I just comment on one more? Just comment.
Sure you can.
I'd just like to mention that, read the letter that the CABED will be bringing to the table that was sent to all councillors, and I think that I'm so glad to see that the CABEP will be making a presentation there on behalf of the members. I think it's very important that such an organization bring that up, you know, on behalf of all the Francophones. Thank you to the CABEP.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to tax exemption status removal request from Sluice Point Community Hall. And we have, yes, I just was reading, doing a quick brief on that. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay,
Stroud.
what's going on here is, well, probably the last couple of years, there's been some issues, well, not really some issues. There's a committee that takes care of the Sluice Point Community Hall. That's the bottom line. That committee has not been functional in the last 10 years. People are getting older, things are falling apart, there's no money to fix anything, you can't do much with that hall. So what happened last year, there was a letter sent to all the residents of Sluice Point to see what, because the community owns a hall, and what they would like to do with it, what they would like to, get the bottom line, what you want to do. And I guess when they got all the answers back was, you know, try to sell it. We can't take care of it anymore. There's nobody willing to step up. Committee's been basically just hasn't had a meeting to disband, but there's only a couple people taking care of the committee right now. So what they're asking the municipality, since they were a non-profit organization, they had no taxes on the building. So now they're asking if the municipality would put it back on the tax roll.
I think that's a first.
Me too. I couldn't understand why anybody would want to go
Yeah.
that way.
I can maybe go one step further to that.
Should.
And I should, yes. It's a great question. What happens is if that falls into disrepair, which is almost there now, there'll be money that'll have to be spent, and they might have to be, they'll be forced to take it down, I guess, and it's gonna be a lot of money, and it's gonna go on the taxes of all the residents, because they're the ones who own this. So they want to put it back on the tax roll,
To go.
so therefore it'll go to the tax
Tax
sale,
sale.
hopefully down the road.
Okay.
And I may as well be upfront, to me, I think I'm right saying this, and then it'll go to all the municipalities to pay for that, to tear it down. That's how I see it, on that's wrong.
We have a legal opinion.
Perhaps, there are title issues with the property, and it's difficult to dispose of it without those title issues being resolved. But a tax sale does go a long way to resolving those title issues, and therefore, it is for that reason that they want to go through that process. It is a process that's available to them, and so that's the reason why. Otherwise, it would have cost them thousands of dollars in order to be able to arrive at a proper legal solution to clarify the title issues. Many more thousands of dollars, so.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
clarification.
that's clear.
So would you like to
Makes
make that a
sense, yeah.
motion?
I would like to make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carried. We have East Pubnico Streetlight.
No, I just wanted to get, I know that Councillor Book had brought it up, and I was just wondering, I guess maybe I missed the email, or where is that streetlight? Because I guess I've gotten some requests for streetlights, and I just kind of wanted to see where that one went before I
Yeah.
embarked in,
Sure.
you know.
We had a resubmission from the East Pubnico Fire Department. They gave us additional information on the safety concerns. We satisfied ourselves that they did in fact have a safety issue. We kind of knew after they initially explained it, they didn't, like, there were pieces missing, but then since that time verbally, we had heard that there, like, of some of the issues that occurred there that were not disclosed in the original application. So we knew as soon as we get a renewal or a second request, it was likely to be approved. It has been approved. It hasn't been installed yet, but the sign off has occurred, and so that will happen. Right? So, again, it's the policy is very clear. You have to establish the safety issues associated with that. And one of the things, like, it is a bit of a similar situation to what Deputy Warden Muse had indicated, where a public resident was paying for a streetlight. because they wanted safety for their particular property, and so it wasn't just, and so that light became the safety measure for the community, as opposed to it being for just one property. So it's a very similar situation. Anyway, so long story short, we approved it, and that will be paid for by the municipality.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
It's,
Councillor Digdon.
I feel as though at some point in time also we may have to look at the streetlight policy, because I feel as though it's very restrictive as to where lights go now and where they don't go. It's no secret. I'd like to see at least a few streetlights put down on the sidewalk in Middle West Pubnico. It's a well-used sidewalk. There's people on it day and night. And for safety and security reasons, I will be bringing this up again at some point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on that? Okay, we'll go to correspondence for information. There's the building permits. The next one, we all received these.
Yeah.
The next one is the Doppler radar system. Are they asking for a letter of support here? Because that is very important when it comes to forecasting weather, and Yarmouth doesn't have one.
I believe it was the intention of the town, of the municipality of Yarmouth to obtain additional letters of support for the Doppler radar.
I suggest that we do that. As a weather guru, I understand how important they are, and there used to be one at one time. So now when you click on a weather map and you want to see the satellite picture
Yes.
of rain, it just barely hits the southern end of Nova Scotia. It doesn't expand out into the Gulf of Maine, so it's very hard for weather forecasters to predict what's coming for marine weather, because they don't have that one tool that would help them. And it's not a very complicated system. Pretty well every aircraft has one in the nose of their aircraft. So
Oh, yeah.
anyhow, I suggest that we do find out what Yarmouth wants exactly and give them a letter of support.
I would add, Mr. Warden, that the addition of a Doppler radar and additional information around weather would be consistent with the ICSP and our objectives around climate change and climate adaptation.
Yes.
You know, we recently saw what Irma did, and obviously there were others. And so that information would be consistent with your position around climate change adaptation. This would be just an additional layer of information that could be useful.
Okay, thank you. Could I ask somebody to make
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Oh dear. Okay. Department of Education, Early Childhood Development, Wedgeport School. Anybody would like to comment on that?
I'd just like to say that the letter to me didn't sound very promising. I didn't find it seemed very promising. It's like the CSAP has a lot of schools and the enrollment has gone up. I was kind of disappointed when I saw the letter.
If you like some clarity, there's a school in Halifax and he's a new school. There's a school in Wedgeport and he's a new school. See what happens. They both need.
Yeah,
It's gonna be tight.
tough.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be tough. I mean, I'm probably gonna be biased, but it seems like Westport definitely needs it more, but,
Not a question.
there's a lot of people actively, pursuing this, and hopefully we'll be able to steer it in the correct direction, but, yeah, it's a generic response, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one's Yarmouth Area Community Fund. Community Hall Project, Capital Project update. Pretty well everybody's got their work done on that. New administrative building design brief. Ellen, I assume, CAO, Ellen, I assume you would like to speak on this one.
Yes, very quickly. Actually, and after this meeting, I would invite all of council to stay behind, because I did ask the architects to forward some of the questions that they would ask of council regarding the council chambers. They forwarded those questions, and so we'll be asking those questions. We won't do it on camera because it's rough. Like, it doesn't work very well on camera, but certainly that information will be shared to the public. So actually, F and H are associated. New Admin Building Design Brief and New Admin Building Design Survey Results. So if I may, Mr. Warden, I'd like to speak to both of those items at the same time. Might save some time. So the design brief is basically a summary of what Wild Salt Architecture has heard from staff and also from people outside of staff. We have indicated to our architects that there were certain people that they need to have a conversation with, and they have done that. They have not had all of the conversations that they need to have in order to influence the design. We encouraged them to meet and have conversations with 3 or 4 key people, particularly in the community of Tusket, that have the history of Tusket. Either they wrote books about the history of Tusket, there's a hint about who that might be, or have had a long-standing relationship with the Historical Society, that have an understanding of what Tusket and the region, not just Tusket, and the region have to offer. So I actually had a meeting with Don Poche, and he indicated some of the historical, and some of his ideas are just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we have to keep in mind that it may not be, from a cost perspective, we may not like it, but some of the ideas that have come up are just simply spectacular. So very, very exciting, kind of, like a depiction of an old hotel, for instance. So he has pictures of an old hotel that used to be the hotel in the county. And so we have very nice pictures of how that was designed. And so could we steal some of that design for the new building? So I was really excited to see that. That was pretty cool. So that information was transmitted to our architects. So our architects are aware of all of that.
Okay.
So the other thing that is interesting that the public should know is Gordon Wood, former warden in the municipality of Argyll, wrote us a really nice email. And inside the email is a picture. There's a picture of a window. And the window is a circle. I don't know, it looks this big, but it's actually like probably that big. And it was at the apex of his family's homestead that originally was at that location. So for whatever reason, he still had this window, obviously for sentimental reasons. But this thing has got to go in this building, like whether it's outside or inside. It's a gorgeous window. You've all seen it. It's just a little something that just says a lot. Anyway, yeah, and so we're all really excited about what that looks like, or what that could potentially look like. So the design brief, what we have said to our architects and what we have shared at the subcommittee meeting, and a lot of the staff comments is, let's not make this a commercial building. Let's make this a building that we feel at home with. So the people coming in feel welcome. They know where to go for services. The staff rooms or the kitchen or the offices don't look commercial, they look residential, right? So they have a softer look, right? They don't have these big lights, and there's no, there was a lot of concern and conversation about security. What is security gonna look like? There will be no plastic panes with little circles in them. That's not who we are. Right? You go to any financial institution and you don't see that, and they deal with a lot more money than we do. So, from my opinion, when you do that, you create barriers and you create conflict. You don't actually encourage collaboration and working together with the residents, which is our job. So from our perspective, the security, yes, we have to have security. We have to have, elements of the design that allow for reduction of violence in the workplace. Like people, like staff shouldn't be cornered in places or feel that they're trapped in their own building. Like nobody wants that, of course, but we are going to be very smart about how we do security, and that it's a welcoming environment for our residents. We're also talking about what would the residents use this building for their own purposes. So clearly, we have to have a roof over the head of the administrative and public works staff. So it's about that, of course. but it's also about how else we use it in the community. So one of the things that we did go out with the survey, which again, the architects have seen the results of the survey as well, is that our community wants us to do it right, to not do a Taj Mahal, to do it nice, to do it, you know, let's not go too cheap, you know, let's make it right, make it rightly sized, make sure you have enough storage. That's the things that we've heard through the survey. But we also heard things like, not sure you should put space for businesses. You know, that's for private business, right? That's actually not for municipalities, because you're actually competing with other people who have space. And that was really constructive, and from our perspective, it made us focus on, okay, well, if we're going to add this kind of space, it has to be for a very particular purpose. And it can't be to incubate businesses. It has to be to deliver some form of service that the municipality or the county or the community desires. So for instance, if there wasn't an option, if a doctor, this is the example I always use, because people will say, if there's no room for a doctor, for goodness sakes, put room for a doctor, right? So if there was a physician, or if there was health services that needed space that was not provided by industry, then that space could be used for that purpose. But it could not be used to compete in the situation where an entrepreneur would have that space, right? Anyway, so that we got a lot of very good input from the community. What we have talked about in terms of council chambers is the staff highlighted the importance of egalitarian or equal. So
Can I ask you, what does that word mean?
it means what you see.
Means
Essentially,
Danny wouldn't be
yeah,
elevated.
there's nobody that is elevated at the
What does
table.
ethos mean?
Sorry.
E-T-H-O-S.
Oh, ethos.
It's a philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. So the
I already got that.
yeah, that's.
Junior, did you tell him?
I have a thesaurus at home. Not only is it terrible, it's terrible. So it's an old joke. So anyway, I couldn't resist. So anyway, that one will groan for months. Anyway, so what they have, the idea that they have is that it is very similar to what you see, and in fact perhaps even circular. And so they're thinking about, well, if we had a circle, that would be great. However, it has certain challenges because people doing presentations and the public, it would almost exclude them from that. So you'd have to do other adjustments, and there are adjustments that can be made. So, but that's what they're thinking, and of course the idea of the circle is also consistent with First Nations and how they meet in a circle. I think it's important to be inclusive of other of our history and other organizations that might choose to meet in our building. So it would be important to consider what their needs are as well. So again, all of this very high level, very preliminary. Tomorrow I have a meeting with Wild Salt to go over some of this. They're going to have a design, a very, very rough design, fairly soon. And as you know, the first public meeting of this is this Monday, the 18th of September, at 6:30 at École Paramba,
The library.
at the library.
Well, I should mention, but probably most of you know, but that evening at 5:15, there's a very important Yarmouth Industrial Commission meeting, so some of us,
I'll be going.
some of us may be, some of us may be late getting there, or I would think, anyhow, because they're stressing that we go to this industrial commission meeting, because there's
Absolutely.
some important decisions to make on the demolition of the cotton mill, so.
Right.
If some of us are late, that will be the reason why.
My hope would be to attend both. And I believe it's a bit of an open house, if I
Yeah,
if I
that's what
remember
I
correctly,
understood
so-
too.
Or is it 6:30 presentation? That's correct. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. So 6:30 presentation, it's not open house, anybody come in anytime. It's 6:30.
Thank you.
Your meetings are at what, at
5:15.
5:15?
Usually they go pretty quick,
Yeah,
but if there's a presentation, it'll take longer.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We'll see. Are you done with that until we speak later? not in camera, but off camera.
Yes, of course I am, and for the community, if they want to see the, we hope to put this on Facebook. Our IT director, Scott, has prepared the survey results, and we'll look to put that on, an attachment on Facebook, so through social media, so that people can take a look at the results and what we have said, what we have heard from the results. They are attached to our agenda as well. I thought the community did a super job telling us what they felt. It was really good, very, very good. And I was glad to see that it was consistent with what we wanted as well. Like, we don't want modern, we want historical, traditional. We didn't want something that stood out in the community. We wanted it to fit in. And so I feel like the residents were perfect. They had perfect response, and some of them didn't agree with some of the things that we said, and they were very clear about it. And look, that's why we asked them the question. Like, so it will actually influence, I think, how we decide on the space.
Thank you. Fund Act requests, starting off with community grants. First one, Kathy, Councillor Burke.
Yes, East Side Community Center is asking for a grant to purchase a dehumidifier for the basement. Basement's always musty and causes mildew, so I'd like to give them $500 for my district community grant.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carried. Councillor Surratt, is that yours?
Yes, it is. L'Association de la Chapelle from Surratt's Island. We're trying to keep our little chapel, was built way back when, keep it in order, and we did a lot of work on it last year, but we do the mowing of the lawns, and there's a committee that was struck a year and a half ago, and we got the statue of Holy Virgin Mary of the Cape, which was fixed by Pauline Bork. Yeah. So anyhow, we're looking for some money to try to help defer some of the costs we have there. So they're asking for $500, and I so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carried. And I believe the next one's yours also?
Yes, it is. St. Joseph Parish has sent me a letter that they're doing repairs to the fire emergency escape, and they need some help in those repairs, so I make a motion that we give them a $500 district community grant.
Second.
Aye.
Motion. All in favor? Against, motion carried. Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. I have a request from Pubnico West Foyer and they're looking for a $500 community grant to help out with such items as books and other classroom supplies, field trips, technology, and playground equipment. So I so move that way. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carried. And we have one more from grants to organizations. It's the Bay of Fundy Sea Kayak Association or Society. We budgeted the money in our budget, and now we have to do a formal motion. I understand, Chris, is that what you want, a formal motion?
Just to confirm the funding amount,
Okay.
$7,500, which is in the special events budget, which was approved during the budget.
That's right.
So can we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carried. Agenda topics for next meeting. Anything? You always can forward them between now and the next meeting. Generally, we get added to the agenda. Notice of motion by councillors. Question period.
Move to adjourn.
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn. I'm gonna go put this in my truck.
This is not.